We are delighted to be joined by Don Flynn from the Migrants Rights Network. Don, are you there?
I am, yes. Yeah.
Excellent. So Cameron said no ifs and no buts. Very clearly, he's already broken his promise, and the people simply going to believe another promise by Mr. Cameron.
Well, I think that's what he's hoping. He's certainly working very hard to suggest that there's something completely unique about the package that he's offering up. But it is easy to spot some of the flaws in it, in terms if it's a measure that's intended to drive down migration numbers. The truth is that it's actually targeted at probably quite a small group of people, EU nationals who are working and who are entitled to in-work benefits. That's probably only about 10% of the total number of EU workers in the UK. And of course, EU nationals as themselves are only 1/3 of the migrants in the UK. So it's actually a small group of people who are going to be affected by this legislation, even though it will be very drastic. It'll have a very drastic impact on them, but it certainly won't do much to drive down immigration figures.
Now, will they succeed in reducing the number of EU migrants, you think, these new measures?
It's hard to see how that would happen. A lot of it will depend upon if there is a cohort of people who are really desperate out there in Europe and who are prepared to take the hit that the loss of these benefits would represent. For a young single person, for example, it would be in the order of about £90 a week is a value of tax credit. So somebody who earning £290, a typical average wage over here, they'd only be getting about £200. If it is the case that things are so bad in the rest of Europe that people would accept jobs even at that level, then people will continue, and the signs are that it is, then people will still come, but their standard of living over here will become much harder.
Now, Cameron insists that his proposals would require change to the treaties governing the EU. How will the EU react to this?
Well, I think that's right. It's very clear. Article 45(2) of the European Treaty states that discrimination for people who are exercising free movement rights as a worker is simply not permissible. So it's about the hardest change that you can achieve within the context of EU law, and that is an amendment to the treaty itself. And that it only takes one head of government of the 28 member states to object to this, to hold the whole thing up. So he's got. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it seems like he's got a very tough road if he's going to convince other governments that this is a measure that needs to be taken.
Mr. Flynn, how comes Mr. Cameron has decided to leave out the idea of a cap or limit to the numbers coming in, considering the idea was floating around for months?
Yeah, I think it would have been an extraordinary measure. I mean, he was talking about an emergency brake. And my feeling is that when you start using languages of emergency, the other heads of the European government would have come back to him very quickly and said, well, what is the nature of the emergency as far as the UK is concerned? Is there evidence of huge congregations of people who can't find work and it's causing civil unrest? And Mr. Cameron, if he's going to be honest, would have to turn around and say, well, no, the emergency is that we're losing seats to UKIP in by-elections. And I don't think anybody would be impressed in the rest of the European Union that really was an emergency that required that sort of action.
We're just going to leave it there. Don Flynn from the Migrants Rights Network, thank you very much for your time.